Hello, hello. We are filling this room. Come on in, come on in. Come in, come in. Join me today with David Beaumier. We're so excited to have him here representing Chanticleer Books and Review. I'm sorry, Book Reviews and Media. This is one of our long-time sponsors. And we're so excited to have him here again, hosting this webinar, which is entitled Maximize Your Marketing from Reviews and Awards with Chanticleer. We love this service. We use it as a part of our community, and we encourage you to take note, be involved, and get as much information as you can from David. Just a few housekeeping notes before I turn the mic over to him. We do have our Q&A box rather than putting our questions in the chat. We are asking you to put all your questions in the Q&A box. We will reserve some time at the end in order for David to answer our questions as they come. We also ask you if anything happens, like the internet goes out, if anything drops, just go back to that link, join us again. I promise one of us will be here unless everything goes out all at once. I also want to share with you, because you are a registrant, you will receive a replay of this presentation, and you will also receive any assets that David provides for us. I know we have his slides, but if he has anything else, we'll try to get that over to you as soon as we possibly can. So one more time, join me in welcoming and thanking our very close friend, David Beaumier of Chanticleer Book Reviews. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you to Women in Publishing for having me. I see a lot of people who are here who I recognize, a lot of names that I recognize. It's great to have you all here. We will get on started. I'll have a little introduction for myself coming up. Um, I've been working with yeah, let's go to the introduction slide. Let's jump right into it. One of my big goals with this presentation is to talk sort of generally about book awards and editorial reviews and the ways to do it. The goal is not to be like, you gotta do Chanticleer. I think Chanticleer is one of the best choices out there, but I support you in choosing what works best for you. Uh, my main experience with marketing comes from Chanticleer. I've worked with them for the last 5 years, and so that's why I have a lot of information about it. A little bit about me is that I've been in the publishing industry since 2013. Um, in addition to Chanticleer, I have worked as a book coach, freelance editor. I was the assistant publishing director at our local Village Books and Paper Dreams here in Bellingham, Washington, where I live. We're just north of Seattle. I've received the Village Books Literary Citizenship Award, and I'm the author of the book The Morning Fields. And so I say all that because I am very familiar with the publishing world from the editing side, the book selling side, the publishing side, the marketing side, and the author side. And so that's sort of the experience that I'm trying to bring with you here, as well as the experience of having been part of a company that runs these programs and things of that nature. Reason we do this is for visibility, of course. Already this year, 1.5 million books have been published, and a lot of them are not going to have very many readers because they are not going to find their audience. Having books be discovered is a huge challenge and a huge pain point for authors everywhere. When you have a strong author platform, and we'll talk a little bit about ways to use your author platform later on, and then you pair it with tools like awards and reviews, that really helps your book get discovered. Um, these days, I was talking to an agent the other day, and he said, "Well, I think the quality of the book is all that matters." And this is an agent who always is pitching big five publishers. And I was like, "Well, they have a marketing team behind every one of your authors, my friend. I don't know what to tell you." And so we're going to hopefully help you find ways to get a book blurb, to get a digital badge, something that'll help you have your book stand out. We're going to start talking about editorial reviews. I will go through different ways to find the right ones, what to look for in specific editorial reviews, and all that good stuff. Here I've put up three places that I have heard great things about. Chanticleer, of course, Book Life, which is ran through Publishers Weekly, Forward Reviews, which I believe has a strong connection with IBPA, and of course Kirkus Reviews, which, for all of us is sort of a household name. Pardon me. Editorial reviews in general are supposed to be unbiased and objective. It's a standard of, is this book good? Is it worth reading? How do we feel about it? It is a professional avenue for your book to be fairly assessed, and ideally, it will have multiple pull quotes that you can use to advertise from your book, which I'll talk about a little bit later. I do want to talk specifically about some of the things that Chanticleer does, just to give you a sense of what I think is sort of setting the standard. We work really hard to maximize your search engine optimization under the hood, which means we're trying to make sure that the title of your review is optimized, the headings within your review, the sentence length, and that the keywords that we are promoting in those headings and in the title are optimized for your genre. So if you're writing a mystery, we'll have the word mystery show up a bunch in there because we know that this has to be something that web crawlers pick up and see. And now, of course, we are looking at AEO, or artificial intelligence engine optimization, which is a wild thing that I don't think I ever thought we were going to talk about in life, but that's what we're looking at now. Um, for our reviews, all the books are read by human beings. Occasionally, when our reviewers are filled up, I read a book. Our CEO Kiffer has reviewed books for us before. We all like to add on a lot of bells and whistles. We send a mini marketing kit out. I've been told many times to not call it mini because it's like just a good solid marketing kit, but I think it's cuter to say mini marketing kit. That includes a sample of our silver book foil stickers, the review on letterhead, and is there anything else? There's something else there. We have and we include like a how-to guide that helps people out with using it. Um, how should you evaluate the service? The length, I really recommend that you want something that's at least 300 words. Blurbs, I really believe in that there should be a minimum of three blurbs for any editorial review you have. You want to make sure it's quality writing. The way you find that out is you go and you visit, well, the way you find any of this out is you visit the website of where you're looking and you see, how do I like this? Do I feel like it's well written? Do I feel like it's not very good? And finally, you're hoping to find active promotion. For me, this means I want to find at least one piece of social media that this company is using that works well. I want to know that they're having a newsletter engagement, and I want it to be clear and easy how to navigate their website. Um, a big thing to know is that editorial reviews aren't magic. They are tools that you use. Same with book awards. The best hammer that you keep in your closet doesn't do a lot of work if you don't pull it out ever. You want to make sure that you're using those blurbs all across your platforms. Those platforms are just quickly Goodreads, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and your website. I think I'll talk a little bit more of that later on. Uh, yeah. I want to now go through an example. I'm going to do a compare and contrast between two different editorial reviews, one that Chanticleer did and one that Kirkus did. And Kirkus is a household name. Lots of people get Kirkus reviews. I encourage you to get a Kirkus review. This is not my goal is not to tell you no Kirkus reviews, but I want to give a sense of the difference that you can have between reviews. As you can see here, I've color coded some things. What have I color coded? The teal for me is summary. The white, the unhighlighted ones, it's a little harder to say. Like, is this summary? Is it analysis? It's like giving more of a genre feel, I think, or doing analysis. And then yellow is blurbs. Now, the way this is set up is we have one paragraph, we have this paragraph, this giant monster paragraph. This pack of white text is still part of that previous paragraph. And then you see it finishes with one line that's highlighted. That's your blurb. And frequently, this is how Kirkus works. It's the name of the game for them. Not a problem. They have a very established group. Lots of people in the industry know who Kirkus Reviews is, and if you can get a good Kirkus review, that's a big plus. But as you can see, you get one blurb for the entire review, and there's not a lot that you can really pull from in that. This is the Chanticleer review that we did. Here you can see there's a lot more balance. The way we try to do our reviews, and this is the way that I sort of look at what this is my how do we look at quality of writing question is I love to have we love to have a little bit of like this is what the book's about, and then something that follows that up. This is a blurb. This is what makes the blurb make sense. You know, A Vengeful Realm is a study in richness. Why is it a study in richness? Well, the character setting and world building, vital elements for a strong fantasy. They pull the reader into the land of New Rania, where the most valuable currencies are loyalty and power. You know, that tells you more about why the blurb is true. Um, excels at characterization, and then you have a summary explaining the characterization of the main character of Zephyrus. Um, One thing I mentioned heading optimization. Whenever you see one of these like short lines, I think in most places, but you see the one line Fasciola's high fantasy world feels like a finely tuned watch. As the characters come to life, they move inexorably toward the only choice they truly have. That on our website is a heading. And so you see that we got the keyword of high fantasy has been put in there. Just to make sure that when we're putting it out in the world, um, standard search engines and AI search engines both are going to find that and say, oh, that looks cool. Um, we go through, more blurb, more stuff. This is actually, oh, I knew I repeated it somewhere. I was removing this from a different presentation. That's fine. Um, at the very end of this, I did cut the very last paragraph because we had it was going so long in the number of slides, and it would have just been one paragraph. But there's also a length difference here, right? Kirkus is pretty small. You want to see how much you can get, and you can see if we go back through this and just look at the the yellow, we've got one, two, three, four, five, six different blurbs from this. My book just came out in September. I had a local literary journal did a review for it. I had an author blurb, and I had a Chanticleer review for it. And that netted me a total of 11 reviews. And I take those reviews and I use them as much as possible, going through them again and again and again in as many different places as I can. Um, I can't see if there are questions or comments at this point. I'm going to move on to book awards, but I want to pause, Catherine, just in case there are any questions that feel like they're editorial review specific. Cool, great. Um, Talking about awards, one fun question I get about the Chanticleer Awards it's the name is the Chanticleer International Book Awards, and we're in Bellingham, Washington, like I mentioned, which is of course an hour drive from Canada. So people will say, okay, they're international. How international are they? And the answer is we get people from all around the world. We've had attendees from India, the UK. We regularly get people up from Australia, South Africa, Portugal, Turkey. People come from all over to see us, which we really enjoy. Here are three awards that I think are great. Of course, Chanticleer, IBPA, who I mentioned before, they do a great job with their work. They used to be the Ben Franklin Awards, and they've become the IBPA Book Awards. And then the Eric Hoffer Awards, I don't know as much about, but I see a lot of overlap between the two of us, and that's a good sign for me. Um, Oftentimes people say, well, should I do a review or should I do an award? And the difference is sort of with the review, chances are if you feel pretty confident your book's going to get a good review, you probably are right. Um, but that just says, yep, someone read this and said this is a great book. We liked it. When it wins an award, that means it's been vetted against other books in its genre, and that really can count for a whole lot. Um, to say, oh, like not only did all these books get reviewed, but this one was the best of the best. You can always do both, of course. It's usually a financial thing, right? Awards cost money to enter, reviews cost money to buy, especially editorial reviews, which are not reader reviews. Don't buy reader reviews. Amazon doesn't like that. A few other awards that I don't have on this. If you write LGBTQ plus fiction, the Lambda Literary is a great one. And then you should always look up what your local book awards are. I've submitted my work to the Washington State Book Awards. I will hear back, I think, in the next 3 months about if I've even advanced at all. Fingers crossed, but who knows? It's okay either way. But if you can find something that's local and specific to you, that's very good. Um, this is sort of some of the Chanticleer advertisements that we do, and I just want to give you a sense of ideally when you submit for an award, there should be a robust amount of advertising that the program is doing for you. We have shortlist badges, semifinalist badge, finalist badge, and the first place badge. We also have a grand prize and an overall grand prize badge. There's not enough room on the slide. We don't need it. Um, you want to make sure that the promotion is happening regularly. If they have multiple lists, that can be, I know, kind of frustrating for for some authors because they say, I just want to know if I won. But multiple rounds of promotion really does make a difference. I hear from people at conferences all the time that when we posted the short list, the semifinalist list, they saw a little bit of boost in sales. And so I think doing that research, hunting down something that does that for you is a really, really, really good idea. Um, Typically, I would say you want to make sure that there are at least two lists, like at least these are the short lists of people to win, and these are the people who won. If it's just these are the people who won, it can be kind of frustrating to have the black box there, and you can have concerns about what's going on. Uh, Ideally, again, I think I mentioned this earlier with the reviews, but having newsletter promotion is really important. Having some sort of social media is a nice to have for sure. Um, One of the big things is that entering a book award, any sort of advancement can be good. And you want to reach out to the company frequently and say, hey, I made it to thank you so much. I was a semifinalist last year. I'm just curious if there's any other promotion that I should be doing for my book that I don't know about. With Chanticleer, we do judging notes on request. We do digital certificates starting at the semifinals level. There's, of course, the badge. We can put together press releases for people. We will do a lot for people who ask us to do it. We have way too many people in the awards to try to do it for absolutely everyone. So we do a lot on request. Um, and so I just want to really emphasize that every rung of the ladder is useful and worthwhile, even if you're just longlisted, even if you're just shortlisted. You can still say, hey, I did this. Congratulations to the other people. Good work. Um, One thing we haven't talked about too much yet is how to research them. So you Google a review service, you Google an award service. What do you do? The places that I recommend you check out are Ally, ALLI. That's the Alliance of Independent Authors. I think Orna Ross, who runs them, has presented here at Women in Publishing before. They're a wonderful watchdog service. Writer Beware is probably one that more people have heard of. They do a lot of great work. That's Victoria Strauss. And then another one is Absolute Right, WRITE. They're sort of like Reddit for writers. I haven't been on them much lately, and so they might be. I'm not sure if they're still very active, but whenever I mention them and I can verbally hear people giving feedback back, they say that they've heard about it a lot. Those are sort of my three top recommendations for if you're trying to figure out is this place worth it for me or is this maybe a little bit scammy. And I really do recommend checking it out. I have authors who email me fairly regularly asking about, hey, I'm thinking about submitting to this place. What do you think? And even if you have um, a company that's assisting you with where to submit for reviews and awards, you still want to do a little bit of due diligence. You want to talk to them a little bit about it. I have one friend who runs a company that pairs authors with book awards. They do great work, and their number one goal is, does the company do what they say they will do? Which is a wonderful thing. It means that you're always getting signed up for something that, at the very least, follows the letter of what they say they'll do. But it doesn't always mean that you're picking the place um, where your book is actually going to get vetted. There are some places where you submit and it feels like every single book wins a prize. And you're like, huh, that's weird. And that's part of seeing the different lists, as you can see who falls off and how things move onward. Last piece of advice for the book award slide. This maybe should have been two slides, but that's okay. Is that you should track down the awards that you're interested in, whether it's Chanticleer, IBPA, Eric Hoffer, or whatever. And you want to make a calendar of when are their submission deadlines. You can always reach out and ask if there's flexibility on those deadlines. I can tell you at Chanticleer, we have let people submit, I think, up to 2 weeks after the deadline date. Um, and usually we've got some wiggle room. Our conference where we announce these is in April. The last of them close in October. So we can be kind of flexible with that. Other places, not so much. This is where we're going to talk more. We've gone through what they are, how to use, where to see them. Let's talk more specifically about advertising and using these tools as the marketing assets that they are. Um, a big thing is that, um, you know, being authors, all of us, I like to think of my marketing, and this maybe won't work for you, but for me, I think of my marketing like a narrative journey. I'm telling the story of how my book is finding success. And so every time that I enter for a review, every time I enter for a reward, that can be something you post about on social media. That can be something that you share about in your newsletter. If you're posting on social media, it's great to tag them on Facebook in particular. We work really hard to track down as many interactions with authors as we can and really follow through with that. We're very hungry for that sort of thing. And I think that your audience, in all likelihood, is interested in the story of your book. They want to know what's happening. They want to know how it's going. Once the process wraps up for the review or for the award program, find the digital badges, find any certificates, any blurbs that you can use, and keep them in a marketing folder for that book that you can recycle through and keep them handy. Where do you do it? How do you do it? This is where you do it. These are all the places. Like I said, I got my 11 blurbs initially. Recently, I went through and I created, no, that's a work message. I need to figure out a way to block Teams while I'm doing this. Anyway, I recently went through and created just a simple Canva image where my book cover moved around a little bit and I had the blurb written next to the book. So I can just start sharing that easily on social media and in my newsletter as I go through. Um, Anywhere that's considered a static place for these, that would be your Author Central page on Amazon under the editorial review section, Goodreads, your author website, query letters, and maybe shelf talkers. We'll talk a little bit more about shelf talkers in a second. Anywhere where they're static, I recommend you shift those once a quarter. And if you have, five editorial reviews to go through, or five blurbs, you can easily just cycle through those. You could also use reader reviews. If you get great reader reviews on Amazon or Goodreads, most people are just happy to see that there's a review. The great thing about cycling through them and using different ones in every place is that for most readers, again, I said earlier, Kirkus is a household name for all of us. When I tell people what I do for work, I say, "Oh, it's sort of like Kirkus reviews." They, without, bar none, they say, "What's Kirkus reviews?" They have no idea what it is. So most readers aren't going to know, and so refreshing those blurbs makes it seem like you're getting fresh new blurbs once a quarter, and people get very excited about that. And then when they see, oh, this book looks interesting on their website, let's go look at the Amazon page to buy it. They go there and they see a new blurb, even if it's from the same company. They see it that it's a new blurb, it's different, it shines and it stands out for them in a different way. So I think that's a very good thing to be doing. Going through my notes. Um, let's talk just a little bit about shelf talkers. Shelf talkers, sometimes people ask me what those are. They're like the wine notes for your book. So when you go into a bookstore or a wine shop, whichever your preference is, sometimes you'll see those little papers that are taped in front of the books or the wine, as the case may be, that tells you a little bit about them. And that's what a good shelf talker is. I will go into my local bookstore and I'll say, "Hey, I would like to leave a shelf talker for a book. Can I have a piece of paper and some tape, please?" and they'll give it to me. They'll say, "Here you go," and I will write down one of my blurbs. Sometimes I go to Amazon and I'm like, this feels like the best in version of, so often when I worked at a bookstore, people would look at a book and say, "Oh, well, I can buy this cheaper on Amazon, so I'm going to go do that," which is heartbreaking in so many ways. Um, and we would go on and say, okay, well, that's fine, I guess. But now I'm taking Amazon reviews and putting them as blurbs up in the bookstore. And I, of course, cite the reviewer, but I don't cite Amazon because I want to support that. I want to support my local bookstore more than I want to support Amazon. Anything else here to talk about? For query letters and pitch packages, I think that is a good place to pause really quick. Um, I do see people submit their manuscript for an editorial review every now and then. I don't see that work out as well for people as submitting their manuscript for an award. Um, One story that I tell fairly regularly is we had one author who had won first place category winner in our middle grade awards 2 years in a row, which is great, amazing work. And he emailed me and he said, "When can I expect an agent to contact me now?" And some of you might chuckle as you hear that, but it's a reasonable question. I did some work, I marketed my book, it's been, recognized. When will I hear from someone? And the answer, of course, is that he won't. You have to send your work to the agents. They have way too much going on to reach out to you and say, "Hey, this is what we're going to do." Um, if you hear from someone that says, "Hey, I saw you won the award. I'd like you to let me publish you for the low cost of blah blah blah," probably a concern. Um, for something like this, you can say, "I've already received this award for the manuscript of blah blah blah." Most agencies these days are looking for work that is 90% of the way there. Um, the indie market has really made it so that it's clear how far authors can take this work on their own. And, like I said, 1.6 million books have been published already this year. There is a lot going through in terms of how much agents get. And so they are looking for the most high quality work. And saying that you've already won an award can be a great way of not only highlighting how good your work is, but also showing that you are willing to put money down to market your book and you really care about it. And so I do think that those are great for query letters and pitch packages. Um, oh man, sometimes I look at one thing and I see something else. I'm like, what's going on? Anyway, I got it. Haven't had coffee yet today. I had my tea, but after this is the coffee time. Um, a press kit is your living file. My favorite thing when I'm looking to promote one of our authors is when I see they have a media kit page. A media kit page for your website, if you're interested, typically will have a 50-word bio for you, a 150-word bio, and a 250-word bio. So it's the small, medium, long. That works really well. It has professional headshots. It has pull quotes from your book, things that people can use if you're coming to their bookstore or some such that they can immediately jump on and say, "Oh my gosh, this is the good thing. This is what we want to have." Uh, when you have a great review, that is really wonderful. I mentioned the mini marketing kit earlier, where we send the review on letterhead. We also send a digital copy of that with the letterhead so you can print it out as often as you want. That is great to send to bookstores and libraries when you're asking them to carry your book. You just send them the whole kit and caboodle and say, "Hey, we'd love for you to carry it. This is what's going on." And you give them that information. I can tell you that when we received a book at Village Books that looked like a gift, that was, wrapped up with a tiny little crinkle paper, had some nice tissue paper on top, and a lovely letter thanking us for considering it. Those those books were much more exciting for us to look at, even than like the boxes from Penguin Random House that just came in with a ton of different books. Um, I want to talk just a little bit about other types um, of reviews that you can have. Sometimes people will consider manuscript evaluations or manuscript overviews a review. That's more of an editing service. I understand the connection between the two, um, but people can get them confused. An editing service, an editing review versus an editorial review. do very different things. The editing review is for you to go through and make changes later on, whereas the editorial review might have some suggestions. It might say, hey, the proofreading could get be better in your book, which is a problem in my book, which is okay to have. But I'm getting there. I'm talking to my publisher. Um, but uh, the manuscript evaluation is typically for before your book is ready for public consumption, whereas an editorial review is when it is ready. There's, of course, reader reviews that we know about. Huge struggle for all of us to get reader reviews in our books, as many of you, I'm sure, know. Very difficult to even get your friends to leave reviews. And then there are editorial reviews, which we've spoken about at length. And then the last ones are peer reviews, which are blurbs that authors do for your book. You want to typically find someone who is either lateral with you or ideally ahead of you and more recognizable. My book is about, creepy modern myths. I got Sharma Shields, who wrote the Sasquatch Hunter's Almanac, and the Cassandra to do my blurb. She's wonderful, very, 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 very kind. Uh, with awards, the last thing, not the last thing, I'm just going to keep talking for forever. Um, One of the last things I want to say about the awards is I had it right there, is that having an award really can make a difference in people talking to you. Um, I have my literary citizenship award from Village Books, which essentially is just like a certification that I am a nice person, which I appreciate. But when I talk to people and I include that in information for a press kit about doing a podcast with them, or doing an interview, or having them do uh, like an expose on my book or some such, that really does matter to them. That thing's going on. I see the same sort of thing happening with the Chanticleer awards and other awards. At the last Chanticleer conference, our Ozma Grand Prize winner came up to me before he knew what was happening, and I think he was under consideration at Blackstone Publishing, and he mentioned he was a finalist in the Ozma Awards, which is our fantasy one, and they said, oh, like they like paused and made a note, and they said, let us know how it goes, we want to hear about it later. And so those things really matter. um Winding back, um it's important to know that as you build up credibility for your books, this is a long-term process. Consistency is the best thing. As much as you can do it, you want to make sure that you're coming back again and again and hitting these things on your social media, in your newsletter, and you're doing the admin work that it requires, which is most of us not the reason we got into writing is because we love administrative work and marketing. We got into writing because we love to tell stories. But I think setting aside time once a month, once a week, really can make a huge difference for you there. Um, and these things can be very evergreen. A badge where you win something, or a good review blurb is something you can continue to use onward and upward for forever. You don't have to include the date of when you got it, and so someone who sees that for the first time sees something that's new. Here are the recommendations for how you continue to do this. We've talked a little bit about this already, of course. Um, if you submit to say four different award programs, that is a minimum of four possible announcements, and potentially way, 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 way more. We do five announcements on average for Chanticleer. And so if you advanced all the way to first place, that's five promotions throughout the year that you're getting. Other places also will do a lot. They'll talk about it a lot. Another big thing is that I've got this here as a bullet point, but when I say connect with similar genre authors, one of the things that I noticed from very successful authors who come into Chanticleer's ecosystem in particular is they will show up at our conference, being very excited whether they win or lose. They're just jazzed to be there, and they will have already bought every other finalist on their list's book and have started reading them. And then they reach out to them. They say, hey, we were in the Chanticleer contest together. I got your book. I adored it. This, and this. And then they set up that relationship where they can do a newsletter exchange. They can blurb each other's books. They can have them on the podcast if they have a podcast. So many people have podcasts. And you can share those media contacts that they have, everything else that we have going on. Sorry, I'm getting so many messages from work. We're thinking about doing a writing retreat in Portugal. Stay tuned. I don't know when that's going to happen, but eventually. Have we got everything else? Update sell sheets. Share every time. Every time there's some sort of progression. You want to be sharing. We already talked about rotating the blips quarterly. That seems good. All right. Um, so my hope is this is something I've started doing recently is asking people to set a goal for themselves. Now, it's possible that you do not have a book that is ready for an award or for a review. That is okay. You don't have to have submitted. I just want you to find one that you can submit to and write down the deadline. I want you to keep it in mind as a goal. um, I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want to make things seem like it's too big, but one editorial review or one book award that you might be interested in doing for yourself. You don't even actually have to do it at the end of the day, you know, but I think it's really helpful to start it as if you're going to start making the plan, to start going for it. Um, I feel like there's more that we could talk about specifically on author platform. I have left quite a bit of time. I want to check in for questions, of course. Um, but I feel like we might want to do a little more talk on platform specifically and building up a solid website and things like that. In addition to all of this, I do have some presents here. Um, we've got a editorial review discount, which is for women in publishing members. I have this QR code that's for The Roost. The Roost is our membership program. We have a new special promo for women in publishing members or attendees of this presentation, which is for 6 months free on The Roost. If you are interested in doing the SIPAs, you can email me and I will send you a code for 25% off. I believe that's only for SIPA award entries that are over $99. So that it does not include the Shorts Awards or the Little Peeps Awards for children's books, because those are already discounted for dates. Um, I want to, let's see if I can pull this back and take a peek at, I gotta be able to find the Zoom. There you are, Zoom. Give me a minute just to grab the chat. I see a bunch of stuff coming up here. This is good. This is good. All right. I'm gonna sneak into the chat first because I know. Oh, people from Portland. Oh, Joanne, hello. Ah, goodness. Let's see. Leslie, good to see you. Kim, great to have you. Yeah, Kim has won the Chatelaine Awards. It's not translating into sales. I think the main thing is making sure that it's going through as many different places. Joan Ramirez, you have my email right there. Um, Wendy, thank you for pointing out that my email's on all the slides. It's also on this one where you can read it a little bit more. Do these primary review sources review for self-published authors? Yes, they do, Elaine. Cindy Cook, are there charges for them? Yes, everything is going to be pay to play, unfortunately. I believe with Publishers Weekly, I mentioned Book Life earlier. Book Life is pay to play. Publishers Weekly, you can submit to and you can and they might choose to review it, but they might choose not to. I have heard through the grapevine, this is not something that I can put in written comment written anywhere. Um, is that Publishers Weekly will check to see if we have reviewed it first, and they will and if we have, that tends to be a point in the favor. Abby asked, "Can you clarify the difference between blurbs and reviews?" Blurb is, I think we sort of covered that when we had the highlighted line. It's a part of the review that you usually excerpt to talk more about it. Kim, both Kirkus and Book Life are expensive, and Chanticleer. You know that it's they're not cheap services, unfortunately. Ooh, Dawn got a review from Literary Titan. I would say if you are savvy about audio files and such, you can record part of that and play it on social media. I think that can be a really wonderful way to do it and just excerpt that and have that somewhere. You can link to it on your website. When you have a website and you have reviews, the more links you have going to and from your website, the better it is for search engine optimization and for AEO, AI engine optimization. Madness. Madness. Kim, I think I clarified ally, Alliance of Independent Authors. Yes, 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 yes. I will get over to the Kim, I'm seeing that about the frustration on bookstores. There are a few, I'm gonna parking lot um Ingram tips. I'm just gonna put that at the very bottom so I remember to say something about it. All right. Oh, I'm seeing some great Nina, congratulations on getting your back cover. Tanya, can you submit a book from your backlist, something published in 2018? For reviews, yes. For awards, with Chanticleer at least, no. A lot of times, awards, one of the ways that the companies sort of keep things moving as well, is to have it be new books. That's very important for them. Um, Congratulations, Lainey, on your award with Christian Books of Excellence with an editorial review. Way to go. Oh, Barbara, thanks for your note. Glad you're here. Barbara, I think this is a different Barbara. Um, I was saying hello to Barbara Salvatore, but hello to the other Barbara who does not have a last name there as well. I don't know about Publishers Weekly if you can resubmit or not. Um, that's a good question. You'll have to check in with them. Uh, Here we go. Over to the questions. Yes, Barbara, I see you. I've got the chat pulled up here now, so I can track you all. And please feel free to keep questions. I often Alexa has been so kind in the past. I often can kind of speak a little fast when I'm presenting, and so they go a little quick. Cindy Cook asks for children's book series, should I submit each one separately? Depends on where you are and how you're doing it. If a place has a series book award, you can always do that. One thing I would do is I would look at, we had that question about the backlist from 2018. I would look at when they're going to be hitting the part where they're no longer eligible for the awards. I find that, we have some people who submit to the series awards and some people who submit the series to whatever the genre division is. For Chanticleer for children's books, that is Little Peeps. What we do when we see that is we wait for our first readers to go through it. If they're all rated fairly highly, we'll usually reach out to the author and say, do you mind if we stagger these out over the next couple of years? That means that now all of a sudden you're getting regular promotion for the next 2 to 3 years. The last example I can think of that was Daniel Green with his Northern Wolf series, which was a thriller. Um, I remember the Ingram tips, but I want to get through all the questions first before I go into. Well, actually, no. Kim, your question is the first one. Your indie published books have won almost 20 awards, including Chatelaine, but it's not translating into sales. Um, I would say the thing to do is to revisit your current marketing strategies. That is your newsletter, your social media, and then what exactly your outreach to bookstores looks like. I mentioned at one point in the presentation how much more exciting it was to receive a book that looked like a gift. Distribution is often one of the really big pain points. I have a publisher. He's a very small publisher, and so he doesn't have a lot of time to get me into even bookstores that are 2 hours away from where I live, despite the fact that it does very well at the local bookstore. Um, and what that means as well is that he does not have it up for what is considered at terms. At terms is a funky thing that means a lot of stuff. It means that your book is typically discounted from its retail price up to 45%, which is then what the bookstore gets to make when they sell your book at retail price, and that it is returnable. It can be very difficult and scary to make a book returnable because you pay for shipping both ways. So if the bookstore takes it and they says, "No, nah, it didn't sell," they send it back. Not only do you have to repay back the initial money they paid you, but now you have to pay for shipping both ways. That can be the deal breaker for a lot of authors. I do think working as your own distributor and managing different consignments can be the solution. I know that there are some places I sort of dream about doing this. I always am thinking of different side gigs, but I know She Writes Press recently joined what they call a stable, and part of that stable is Simon and Schuster is now their distributor, which is great for them and their authors because now they don't have to worry so much about handling who gets it where, what's going on. It's in the Simon and Schuster catalog, which is very great for Simon and Schuster because now they don't have to be taking any risk on books, but they've greatly expanded their catalogs with wonderful, wonderful books by indie authors. Well, it's hybrid press for She Writes Press, so it's semi-indie authors. Okay, I'm going to do that. Clarify the difference between blurbs and reviews. I don't know much about Reedsy Discovery. I do know that Reedsy, sorry, this is the question from Abby Morrison, who asked, can you clarify the difference between blurbs and reviews here? We've talked about that. Also, you're curious your thoughts on Reedsy Discovery. I don't know about Reedsy Discovery. I'm so sorry. It sounds like it's a search engine to help pair you with things. That sounds like a great first step. Reedsy does do some good vetting. I know when I put myself up there as an editor, I had to provide books that I had actually edited, and so that was good. Cindy Cook Balara, can you tell us about the cost of reviews and awards? It ain't cheap. I know for myself, I definitely have been very careful about submitting. And one of the reasons that I did Chanticleer was because I knew that, well, I work here, so that's a nice thing. I didn't submit to the awards. I felt like submitting to the awards would be unfair and not good because I oversee a lot of those. But I knew that I'd get at least three blurbs with my Chanticleer review, and I ended up getting five. We also work a lot with authors where we can say, oh, hey, if you need to go through, um, we can talk about the differences and such. Our reviews are 545 for a minimum of 450 words for most standard books. It's a different cost for children's books that escapes me at the moment, but it's lower. And then for a lot of places, it's between $400 and $600. Awards are typically about $100 a pop. There are other places where you can find cheaper reviews and cheaper awards. Typically, they'll have a little less staying power. They won't be as useful tools. It will be a little harder to use them. Um, ah, Abby, I see you said something about editorial review service and you didn't have a lot of pull quotes. Reach out to me, email me, be like, David, there weren't enough pull quotes. And either we will send you at least three pull quotes from them and make sure that it's there, or we will help you rework it. Oh, that's what Readsy Discovery is. Sorry. Okay. I was like, we will help you fix that. Um, answered that one live. Do any of the review companies provide reviews for self-published authors? Yes. How do you vet book awards org? I think we already talked about that. If the question is still there, please repost. Received a review from Literary Titan. We caught that in the chat. My book is moving through the process at Publishers Weekly. There's a review portion of the process. Should I seek independent reviews? If so, when? As soon as your book enters, I would say the proofreading stage is if you have a pub date, that is a good time to start doing it. I really recommend for reviews you have at least a pub date. I know I mentioned that some of our authors have asked for reviews before the book comes out or before it has a publication date. I, it's like I said, the cost is I do think worthwhile, but it's not nothing. And so I think for something like that, an award tends to be better if you don't have a solid publication date. But as soon as you have that and you're at least at the proofreading, maybe the copy editing stage, I think that's a great time to submit for reviews. And you just let them know that. You say, hey, this is an uncorrected proof. And people will bear that in mind as they review it. I know some of our reviewers for Chanticleer will they'll say, the typos are unbearable. And we just look and we say, oh, this book is a manuscript. The typos will probably be fixed. um you can start doing, I would say you want to start if you're like, I want this to come out with the debut, with the pub date. I think having those at least 6 months in advance is good because then you can start your author central page and with your editorial review section properly filled out. Oh, I need to remember to hit answer live. There we go. We're going on it live right now. So Lynn Kovac, PhD. Thank you, Dr. Kovac. Archway Simon and Schuster released my book Strip Mall: Truth Be Told by Eliza Grayson in early December 2025, which is close to the cutoff for books published. This limits, yeah. Yeah, you're right. It does eliminate you. I can tell you for Chanticleer that we I think have up to 3 years in the past. I think IBPA also has a little bit more of a flexibility. I really had to get my book into the Washington State Book Awards because they had a minimal submission window and then they just ran out with it all. But yeah, it's unfortunate if you're not ready to run with it when the book comes out, you end up missing a lot of opportunities for awards. Not the end of the world. I know there's a local author here in Washington State named D.D. Black who does very well for himself, and his number one advice is always for marketing any book is always to write the next book. You know, nothing sells the backlist like the front list. Dr. Kovac, you had again, Amazon cut off your reviews and denied my appeal for an unknown reason. Any suggestions to overcome the issue? I don't. Amazon, like Ingram, is known for having awful customer service. It's really tough. I'm so sorry. I see Catherine says your team would like to answer. Do you have a suggestion for this? Oh, no, no. I think I just clicked answer and that came up with that. Never mind. I'm a liar.
I'm just clearing the questions as you go through them. I'll clear, you answer, I'll clear. That way you can just
Okay,
it'll keep moving.
I'll, I'll stop clicking on them. Sounds good. Da, 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 da. Okay. Simone Moore said, might be a basic question. Do I have to have a publisher to get into bookshops? You don't. It might, Barnes and Noble has very specific rules about what their covers need to look like. There's certain spaces. This is my current read. Oh, I'm gonna close this. I think by now you guys have gotten what's here. Let me stop sharing. There we go. Perfect. This is my current read. And this is the back. Honestly, this is pretty close to the edge, but there are rules about what Barnes and Noble will accept. This is just traditionally published by Harper. Um, but yeah, so that's the biggest thing with Barnes and Noble. With other places, it's usually just a matter of having it on consignment. Now I've been on Threads lately, and I've seen some grumpy posts where people say the bookstore is charging me to carry my book. And it's true, I guess. Consignment authors usually pay a minimal fee. For my book, Village Books carries it for $20, one-time fee. And I've sold in the last quarter 73 units. So I feel pretty good about that 20 bucks. They might even have specific indie author promotion areas. I think they're very worthwhile. Indie bookstores do a whole lot of work. I know that there can be a lot of frustration in publishing because as authors, everyone wants a cut of our book. The distributor wants a cut, the bookstore wants a cut, the publisher wants a cut, and then shipping takes a cut. And it's like, when do we get paid? Um, it's not really a get rich quick scheme for the majority of us, which is maybe not what people like to hear, but I still think it's really worthwhile and I think having a distributor and being in bookstores is better than doing direct sales, which is when you would be set up to send things out directly from your website, maybe through a company like Drafted Digital, which does really excellent work. And I know my publisher does that his direct sales through Drafted Digital. But the thing is that most people do not go to my publisher's website to buy my book. I have a friend who recently has been so frustrated that he stopped doing any sales anywhere else because he wants to keep all the sales and his book no longer sells because no one can find it anymore. He's made himself effectively invisible. How do I get other book authors to give me a review after I've posted mine for their books? It seems like you're going above and beyond with nothing coming right. Oh, I feel you. I feel you strongly. It can be nice to you want to make sure that you're creating a really solid relationship with the person, which I'm assuming you are. But it's so hard to get reader reviews. And that's what I'm sort of seeing you're saying, Dr. Kovac, that you say, I'm going to do a reader review for your book rather than a direct blurb. If it's a direct blurb, you just stop working with that author. If you're giving them blurbs and they're not blurbing you back, you say, it's okay, I'm not going to do it. But I think it's a matter of going through and finding people who are really willing to do the exchange. And I think it's always good my point of view is always to be more generous rather than less generous and invite people and show up for people. And then if they show that they're not going to show up back for you, you can say, gosh, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to I'm going to go for something else. Simone, I see a nice website and a good website side by side. Let's save that one for later. I want to try to keep it focused on this, but let's leave it there because I want to do it. Tina, you asked about average time turnaround time for reviews. Typically, I know Chanticleer, we try to get it back to you in 6 weeks. We say 6 to 9 weeks. We ask for it back sooner from the reviewer so that we can do our copy editing runaround for it. Every place will ideally have what it is, especially if it's a paid review, it'll tell you how long it is. For trade reviews, like with Publishers Weekly, that's probably they'd say, maybe you'll get a review. We don't know. Joanne, when's the best time in the publishing process? I think we already answered that. I think the earliest time is once you're ready to begin proofreading and you have picked a pub date. The latest time is anytime. Anytime is good. Your newest paperback has two statements on the jacket of a book. Let's see. My newest PB has two statements on the dust jacket of my book are regarded as blurbs. Yeah, I think what you're saying is yes, those are blurbs. They're probably editorial review quotes or something from the author. Don't worry about weirdly written things. It's all right. Christy, how current must the book be? For awards, typically they do want it to be current. For for reviews, it can typically come from any time. Joanne, I did translate your things correctly. Wonderful. Kim, that's a wonderful list of book awards. At this point, one thing I will say is you have enough book awards. Um, you don't have to go for all of them. I also would at this since you have so many, I would rotate through them. I would sort of do a little bit of looking for which ones are the most prestigious of those. I'm not as familiar with some of the ones you have. And so I don't want to be like, oh, do this one. Book Life semifinalist, that's probably great. I know Book Life. But I don't want to opine on any of the others, both for good relations and also for not wanting to seem a fool. Bitsy Kemper, I see for the 2026 awards, does the book have to be published in 2026? Not everywhere, not for Chanticleer. Um, but for some places, yes. Oftentimes, I know the Washington State Book Awards that will come out in the fall. That's going to be the 2025 Book Awards for the Washington State Book Awards, even though it's, you know, in fall of 2020, deeply into 2026. Um, let's see. Amazon could do that's a bummer. Uh, I hear you folks on your stuff. I'm going to do one more quick peek at the chat. I've got that hidden somewhere. Where's the chat? There we go. Oh, let's see. 26, does the book have to be published? 26, nope, you're good. When it comes to editorial reviews and awards, I hear you with the imposter syndrome. I struggle with it too. When I was sending out my book, I had thought about, I had identified a few places I was interested in, and I said, I'm not going to do it. And I just got very lucky in that I got so many blurbs from the people who I did send it out to. That really mattered to me, and it made a lot. Um, but
So
I think it's worth it to do it. So, oh yeah.
Barbara had a question earlier, and that's what she put the comment in. It was, if I submitted to Publishers Weekly months ago, can I resubmit? It was only $25.
Hmm. You will have to ask Publishers Weekly. Is the answer? I was like, unfortunately, I don't know. Tanya, I see you have the question, how do I find awards fitting for my novel? You can email me. You can say this, tell me, email me and tell me about your novel. And I'm going to just tell you the chances are Chanticleer, IBPA, and Eric Hoffer will have something for you. Um, we have a good number of divisions and a good number of categories within each division, and that can go well. I know we're a little over time. One thing I like to say when I go over time in my in-person classes, which I know this one is not in person, but I like to say that if you need to go, I'm not offended and I really appreciate that you were here. Um, it's okay to have to go somewhere. Catherine, are you okay if we do a little website check?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and show that for Miss Simone, that would be great.
Here we go. Versus, let's see about this other one. It's easy for me to think of a bad website because I have a terrible website. Um, Harder to think of a good website. Let's see. Da, 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 da. All right, I think this that seems solid there. Let's see how this person's website is doing. Last I checked it, it sort of started to fall down. Yeah, she closed it. Let's see about. Sorry, this is I know watching someone Google things and talk to themselves about it is probably one of the most exciting things that we have. So okay, let's start with a bad website. Um, because that's the most fun. I'm closing the Q&A so I can't see that anymore. Screen two, here we go. So this is my old website that I made, oh geez, in maybe 2013. No, this is a newer picture of me. This might have been 2020. Embarrassing. But so I don't update this anymore, which is why I feel okay sharing it. And so we've got my lovely face, kind of an awkward picture. It's not really clear. My goal is to push your work to the best it can possibly be. I know that we can make your creativity seen. And here, this is my most recent thing. I said I'm rarely open for work now, but I work as the communication market. I came in and I did one little update for it to basically say I'm not here anymore. Here we have services. There's no bullet points. It's not clear what's going on. However, again, I've moved everything out of this and just shifted it back over to Chanticleer because I do freelance work only by request now. This part is the part I'm most proud of. It's not up to date anymore, but these are some of the projects that I had worked on with their covers. Mara Fields, I really loved this book. She had to stop writing, unfortunately. It's out of print now. And then I've got a list of published work. This is again probably the best part of the website where it has, my publication dates. Again, this should also be updated now. I don't even have the morning fields on here. Um, about me, no picture. That's sad. Um, Currently, I work as head of author outreach. That is out of date. Never good to be out of date on your website. It makes it seem like it's dead, which this website is. Luckily, I was thinking about having a company name called The Dancer Rights, and no one can find this unless I tell you about it. So that's eventually I'll get my proper website up. Here I've got some testimonials. Again, I think these are great. Um, it's nice to have them. I would want to refresh these a little bit more, make it seem a little shinier. I think that's a great idea always. This is Janet Oakley's website. She's one of our lovely authors. You can see right away, it's clear that she writes historical fiction. There's no questions about that. Novel set in Norway, novel set in the Pacific Northwest, Hilo Bay mysteries, so about Hawaii. Beautiful picture of Janet with her books. Looks great. I'm so glad you came by. It makes you feel welcome. Easy, quick introduction, and then a cute fact at the end. I churn excellent butter. Don't forget to wash it. Um, you can see some of her latest news. Janet is also, I've talked to her a lot lately. She is also behind on her website updates. One thing we can check out here is her books page. Um, she has not updated it for a while. This one won, I might have been grand prize. She did pretty well. This one she got updated in 2020. So you can see that she has not updated it probably since 2021 or 22. Janet. It's okay. I'm just talking about how good she is. Notice as well that she has, again, this one hasn't been updated. You can buy it at all the places you're interested, and she makes it easy for the reader who's visiting the website to choose how to get it. She has her badges, badge, 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 badge. You can see we updated our grand prize badge. I really like the new one way better. Lots of great badges. She's not using reviews. Janet, oh, she's not here. She was thinking about coming today, so this might have been more embarrassing for her if I had done that. Let's see if I can do. Come on, come on. Sorry, I couldn't see it because of the shape. This is a great one. So this is Dave Fitzgerald. And notice what pops up right away since I messed with it is asked to join his newsletter. Always want that. This is his newest book. You can tell he writes Westerns, I hope, or something nature related with this guy. This is sort of a new version, a new thing. He wrote a story from the point of view of a buffalo. It is not The Lion King. It's very enjoyable. I've gone through it. Um, I haven't actually been to Dave's website before, but I assumed he was going to do good because he does a pretty good job with his stuff overall. I would say one thing I would recommend for him is setting things up a little separately. If it's the last thing I do is I guess a historical figure. It felt more like women's fiction to me, you know. I really liked it. I thought it was very enjoyable, but it's much more contemporary than anything else he does. Obviously, he could be doing a better job with his awards and his reviews. I feel like that's probably not. Ah, look at that. That's him at the Chanticleer conference with this beautiful blue ribbon for a grand prize. For what? For his book series, which was for the Ghost Along the Oregon Trail, which was great. He has his list of reviews, very good. He's doing a good job. I feel like that's probably enough websites. Any Oh, if you're ever in LA, you'll take a free op. Kim, that is way too kind of you. I do have some better ones now than that one that's on my very old website that was taken, I think, during COVID by a roommate who I paid the sweet, sweet price of cupcakes for him and his girlfriend, which was a pretty good steal, but there's a reason that they look so uncomfortable. I feel like that looks like
Definitely
we've
a sweet,
gotten
sweet price, right? If it's a cupcake, it was
very
sweet.
sweet.
Thank you so
Thank you for
much,
letting me go a
David,
little
for
over.
everything. Oh, no problem at all. I'm sure that I think that Miss Simone put all her thanks into the chat just a little while ago for you going over that. Um, let's give it up for David. Thank you again for always being a partner with WIP, one of our special sponsors. We appreciate everything that Chanticleer does for our authors, and we appreciate what you do for our community. You guys, you will get the assets. So you'll get that QR code. You'll get all the information that you need so that you can follow up with David. Let's give it up for him one more time as we close this room. Thank you, David.
Can I do one quick shout out?
Yeah.
I just want to say I see some people in the chat who I know came because they saw that this is a free event that they follow me on social media and such and notice it. I just want to say Women in Publishing hands down is one of the best places for virtual events like this. They do so much for the community. They really show up. I can't recommend them enough. I really encourage you to become a member of Women in Publishing. They're absolutely fantastic.
Yes, and we have a free community. So when you get that email, click that link and join our community. We thank you again so much, David. And at this time, I'm going to close the room. Have a good one.